When I was 25, I was working a job that barely paid the bills. I remember walking home one evening, staring at my empty wallet, wondering why some people seemed to attract wealth while I struggled just to survive. I had no secret, no lucky break, just a burning question. What am I missing? It was then I realized something that changed my life forever. Wealth isn't about luck, talent, or being in the right place at the right time. It's about understanding how money works, how habits compound, and how disciplined action transforms small steps into massive results. From that moment, I knew that success wasn't a dream, it was a choice, and I could start shaping it immediately. Today, I want to share the exact principles that transform my life, the lessons I learned from being broke at 25 to building real wealth. You'll discover how small, consistent decisions, disciplined habits, and a shift in perspective can multiply your income, create freedom, and unlock opportunities that others never see. Let me tell you something. Being rich is temporary. Being rich is having money today. It's the thrill of a paycheck, the excitement of a bonus, or even the joy of selling something for a profit. It feels good in the moment, but it doesn't guarantee tomorrow. And tomorrow, life keeps moving. Expenses rise, markets fluctuate, and unexpected emergencies appear. Without a plan, what feels like abundance can vanish just as quickly as it came. Now, contrast that with being wealthy. Being wealthy is not about how much cash you hold in your wallet or how large your monthly income looks. Wealth is about creating a system that produces financial stability for years, decades, even generations. Wealth is the ability to live your life on your own terms without worrying about bills or emergencies, because your assets, investments, and strategies are working for you continuously. True wealth is measured by the freedom it brings, the freedom to choose how you spend your time, the freedom to work on projects that excite you, the freedom to be generous, the freedom to leave a legacy. Wealth is enduring. Richness can be fleeting. In my own life, I learned this lesson the hard way. When I was 25, I had moments of being rich in that sense. I'd make money on deals or earn a commission that felt enormous at the time. And yet, a few months later, I'd find myself struggling again because I hadn't built a system to sustain it. It was a painful lesson. Money alone, without structure, without a plan, without strategic investment, could disappear. That's when I shifted my focus. I realized that if I wanted freedom, not just temporary relief, I needed to create assets that worked for me, streams of income that would endure, and habits that would multiply over time. The philosophy is simple. Money is a tool, but freedom is the prize. You can have riches and still feel trapped if you're dependent on the next paycheck, the next sale, or the next bonus. But if you think in terms of wealth, you focus on building systems, owning assets, creating investments, and acquiring skills that continuously generate value, then your money works for you. Your time is yours. Your choices are yours. That is the real goal. The end game isn't accumulation alone. It's the freedom to live life on your terms, to wake up each morning and decide what you want to do rather than being dictated by financial necessity. Remember this, being rich may satisfy for a moment, but being wealthy ensures a lifetime of freedom. The decision you make today to build for the long term, to invest, to create assets, and to focus on freedom over temporary comfort is the decision that turns richness into enduring wealth. Let me share a principle that has the power to change the trajectory of your life. Live below your means and invest above your dreams. Now, I know it doesn't sound exciting when you first hear it, You think, if I earn more, I should spend more, right? That's exactly what most people do. The average person inflates their lifestyle to match every raise, every bonus, every windfall. They buy the car, the gadgets, the house, the clothes. They spend to look rich. But here's the catch. Spending to look rich only makes you poor in the long run. Contrast that with the wealthy. The wealthy lock in their lifestyle early, regardless of income, and consistently channel their additional earnings into assets. The difference is profound. The wealthy ask a simple but transformative question before every purchase. Is this an expense or is this an asset? That one question changes the way you approach every financial decision. When you adopt this mindset, you start thinking in terms of growth, compounding, and long-term freedom. Money isn't just for today, it's for creating tomorrow's opportunities. In my own life, I remember early on when my earnings began to grow. It was tempting to upgrade everything, the car, the wardrobe, even the lifestyle. I had friends who spent every penny they earned chasing the image of success. I made a conscious decision. I would maintain a modest lifestyle and invest the surplus into opportunities that could multiply over time. It wasn't easy at first. It required discipline, patience, and a willingness to delay gratification. But as years passed, those small, consistent investments turned into streams of income I could rely on. The car I drove didn't define my success. The assets I built did. Philosophically, wealth is not built by how much you earn, but by how much you keep and how wisely you put it to work. Your income can rise, but if your spending rises with it, you'll never achieve true financial freedom. The practical step is simple but requires commitment. Fix your lifestyle now, even if your income is modest, and let your income rise while your expenses remain controlled. That discipline creates leverage. It turns every extra dollar into a tool for wealth creation rather than an opportunity for momentary pleasure. The strategy is to guard yourself against lifestyle inflation. As your earnings increase, your life doesn't need to get more expensive. Invest in assets that produce recurring income, increase your financial literacy, and stay consistent. Over time, this disciplined approach compounds, and the money you didn't spend begins to work for you. The difference between the person who spends to look rich and the one who invests to get rich is stark. One chases the illusion of wealth, the other builds true, lasting freedom. Remember this, your lifestyle is a choice, but your wealth is a result of disciplined decisions. Live below your means, invest above your dreams, and let your money serve your long-term prosperity, not your short-term ego. I want you to understand one of the most powerful truths about wealth. Scarcity is not your enemy. It's your training ground. When I was 25, I didn't have much. I remember sitting at my kitchen table with a modest paycheck, bills looming, and wondering how I could ever get ahead. And then it hit me. It's not about how much money I have, it's about what I do with the money I do have. Scarcity is a teacher, and discipline is the lesson. Here's the principle. Consistently saving even a small amount, $5, $50, $500, trains your mind, strengthens your habits, and builds the muscle that will carry you to real wealth. People often wait for abundance before they think about saving or investing. They say, once I earn more, I'll start. That's a mistake. Wealth is not about how much comes in, it's about how wisely you manage what's already in your hands. The discipline of managing scarcity translates directly into the ability to manage abundance later. I learned this in my early days by setting aside a small portion of every paycheck, no matter how tight the budget. Some weeks it was just a few dollars, but it became a non-negotiable habit. Those small acts were like planting seeds. Each week, month, and year, those seeds compounded. Not only did my money grow, but more importantly, my self-discipline grew. I became capable of making larger financial decisions because I had trained myself in the small ones. Philosophically, this teaches us that wealth is as much about habit as it is about capital. Money grows when habits grow. If you want to be rich, you cannot wait for money to give you confidence. You develop confidence through consistent, disciplined action, regardless of your starting point. Your financial muscle is built the same way an athlete builds theirs, with consistent, repeated effort, even in the face of limitation. Scarcity, when met with the right mindset, becomes a proving ground, not a prison. The practical step is simple. Start today, even if it's a tiny amount. Set aside a fixed percentage or a small sum every week, treat it as non-negotiable, and reinvest it into something that grows. The strategy is to focus less on the absolute dollar amount and more on the consistency and discipline of the habit. Over time, your disciplined approach will compound, not just financially, but in your character, your patience, and your ability to make wise financial decisions. Remember, the wealthy are not born with abundance. They develop it through repeated acts of discipline. Scarcity, if embraced, sharpens your ability to handle wealth when it arrives. Train in scarcity, save consistently, and let your habits, not your circumstances, determine the size of your fortune. Let me share with you a principle that many overlook but is absolutely crucial to building lasting wealth. Tracking every dollar. I remember early in my journey, I was earning more than I ever had before. Yet somehow I always felt behind. At the end of the month, I couldn't figure out where the money had gone. And then I realized something profound. If you don't measure it, you cannot manage it. What gets measured improves. It's that simple. And yet it's overlooked by almost everyone. Think about it. Wealth is a result of conscious choices, not luck. Each dollar you earn is like a soldier you send into battle. If you don't know where it's going, you're leaving your success to chance. When I started writing down every expense, tracking every transaction, it was like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, I saw patterns. I saw leaks. I saw where my money was working against me and where it could start working for me. Awareness is the foundation of discipline. Once you know where your money goes, you can start making deliberate choices instead of drifting from paycheck to paycheck. Philosophically, this teaches us that freedom comes from knowledge and discipline. The wealthy know where every dollar goes, not because they are obsessed, but because they understand that awareness creates power. Discipline doesn't appear magically. It is cultivated through daily habits. A financial journal, a tracking app, even a simple spreadsheet can transform your life. Every dollar tracked reinforces the habit of intentionality, and intentionality is the mother of wealth. The practical step is to begin today. Write down every expense, every cent, for at least 30 days. Categorize it. Look for patterns. Identify what adds value and what drains resources. This simple habit, repeated consistently, will change your relationship with money. The strategy for turning this into wealth is to use that awareness to direct resources toward growth. The dollars you track are not just numbers, they are seeds. Some go into necessary living expenses, yes, but others can go into investments, skill development, or income-generating assets. When you know exactly what you have, you can decide what deserves your attention and what doesn't. Over time, this simple practice compounds into freedom, the kind of freedom that allows you to live life on your terms, make better decisions, and create lasting prosperity. Remember, discipline begins with awareness. Track every dollar, understand its role in your life, and let that awareness guide you toward freedom and wealth. Let me tell you something I learned the hard way in my early years. Debt can either be a tool that propels you forward or a chain that holds you back. I remember being young, eager, and a little naive about money. I saw opportunities everywhere, but I also saw temptations, things I wanted now, things I thought I needed. That's when I first realized that not all debt is created equal. There's good debt and bad debt. And understanding the difference is one of the most critical lessons on the path to wealth. Philosophically, the difference is simple but profound. Good debt is borrowed money that goes into something that grows in value or produces income. It might be an investment in a rental property, a business, or even education that enhances your earning potential. Bad debt, on the other hand, buys what disappears, what depreciates, or what merely satisfies a fleeting desire. When people load up on consumer debt, credit cards for luxury items, cars that lose half their value the moment they leave the lot, they are essentially mortgaging their future for temporary satisfaction. The wealthy learn to treat money as a servant, not a master. They borrow with purpose, not emotion. The practical step is to become deliberate with every financial decision that involves debt. Before you borrow, ask yourself, is this going to grow in value, generate income, or expand my capacity to earn more? If the answer is no, don't borrow. Be disciplined enough to postpone gratification and strong enough to resist societal pressures to appear wealthy. Remember, your credit is not just a number. It's your ability to leverage opportunities responsibly. The strategy to use debt wisely is to make it work for you, not against you. Good debt should accelerate your wealth-building journey, not slow it down. Use it to invest in assets that generate returns exceeding the cost of the debt. Meanwhile, avoid the temptation to let your lifestyle dictate your borrowing. Luxury items and consumption should be funded by cash you have already earned, not credits you hope to pay off someday. The difference between a chain and a lever is how you use it. Debt, when understood and controlled, becomes a lever that multiplies your capacity to create wealth. When misunderstood or misused, it becomes a chain that binds your freedom. I learned early that controlling debt is about controlling myself. When I treated debt as a tool, I could invest strategically and grow my financial future. When I treated debt emotionally, I suffered unnecessary stress and delays in achieving my goals. Discipline, patience, and clarity are the keys. Understand debt, respect it, use it strategically. Your wealth grows not just by earning and saving, but by using money wisely. And that includes the debt you choose to carry. I want to take you back to a lesson I learned in my early days when money seemed scarce and the pressures of life weighed heavily. I used to think that chasing money was the key to freedom, that if I just earned more, life would get easier. But I quickly discovered something powerful. Money never obeys a desperate hand. Money follows purpose, not panic. The moment I stopped chasing it and started creating value, the game changed. This is the fundamental principle. Money is a servant, not a master. If you let it control your decisions, your time, and your life, it will enslave you. But if you put it to work for you, guided by clear purpose and discipline, it becomes a tool to create freedom. Philosophically, the distinction is profound. The poor and many middle-class earners work for money. They trade hours for dollars, constantly reacting to what bills, needs, and desires demand. The wealthy, on the other hand, treat money as a vehicle. They invest it, leverage it, and let it serve them in building systems, assets, and opportunities. I learned that chasing money leads to stress, short-term thinking, and often poor decisions. Serving value, serving growth, and serving purpose attract money naturally effortlessly, and predictably. Practically, this means shifting your mindset from immediate gratification to long-term creation. Every dollar should be asked a question: will you serve my purpose or just satisfy a fleeting desire? Before spending, investing, or lending, make sure it aligns with your larger plan. Never chase money in the hope that it will solve your problems. Chase knowledge, chase solutions, chase value, and the money will follow. The strategy is simple, but requires discipline. Build systems where money works automatically for you. Invest in assets that generate income, not just hold value. Create multiple streams that feed back into each other. Automate savings, automate investments, and let returns compound. This is how money becomes a servant instead of a master. Treat every dollar as an employee, every investment as a foreman, and every asset as a team. With consistent attention and disciplined guidance, the wealth you build becomes self-sustaining. I've seen countless people get trapped in a cycle of earning and spending, their lives dictated by what they don't have rather than what they can create. Freedom begins when you decide money will work for you, not the other way around. Once you grasp this, the entire game of wealth, time, and life transforms. Money is a tool, a servant, and a multiplier, but only if you choose to make it so. Control it, guide it, and let it serve your vision. I remember when I was first starting out, barely making ends meet and trying to figure out how to get ahead. Like most people, I spent what I earned and saved only what was left, if anything. I quickly learned a harsh truth. Waiting to invest until later is a luxury the wealthy don't afford themselves. The middle class waits for the perfect moment, for the paycheck to clear, for life to settle. But the wealthy take action first. They pay themselves first, consistently, no matter how small the amount. This is the heart of the investor's mindset. Treating money not as something to be spent immediately, but as a tool to generate more wealth. Philosophically, the shift is monumental. When you pay yourself first, you are telling your subconscious mind that you value your future more than your immediate impulses. You are no longer merely a consumer, you become an owner, a creator, someone who controls their financial destiny. Most people think of investing as something complex, reserved for the rich or the educated. But the reality is far simpler. Consistent, disciplined investment, even in small amounts, compounds into extraordinary results over time. Your identity transforms the moment you start thinking like an investor rather than a spender. Practically, this begins with a small, unwavering habit. Each paycheck, each dollar you earn, allocate a portion directly into savings or investments before paying bills, indulging in luxuries, or buying conveniences. Start small if you must, $10, $50, $100, but make it consistent. That small commitment builds a mindset of ownership, discipline, and foresight. Over time, this grows exponentially. The same dollar invested today can become $100 tomorrow, not through luck, but through deliberate, intelligent action repeated consistently. Strategically, the investor's mindset extends beyond just paying yourself first. It's about seeking opportunities that multiply wealth rather than simply preserve it. It's about shifting from thinking like a consumer to thinking like an owner, evaluating purchases, time, and effort through the lens of growth. Assets, businesses, stocks, real estate. These are the mechanisms through which money works for you. And the earlier you begin, the more powerful the compounding becomes, not just in financial terms, but in personal growth, confidence, and freedom. I've watched countless people wait, hesitate, and delay, only to find themselves years behind where they could have been. But the moment you adopt the investor's mindset, you step off the hamster wheel of mere consumption. You begin creating, building, and owning. You no longer chase money. You let money serve your vision, multiply your efforts, and unlock doors that patience and discipline can open. Start early, pay yourself first, and let your identity as an owner guide every financial choice you make. I remember early in my career how often I let emotion dictate my spending. There were moments I would see something I wanted, feel a rush of excitement, and spend impulsively, only to regret it days later. Over time, I realized that the difference between those who accumulate wealth and those who merely get by isn't intelligence. It's the ability to separate feelings from decisions, especially when it comes to money. Emotion spends money, logic multiplies it. That simple truth changed the trajectory of my financial life. Philosophically, detaching emotion from money is about cultivating discipline and clarity of purpose. Every dollar has a role, every investment a goal. When you let momentary excitement, fear, or desire drive your choices, you surrender control of your future. The wealthy understand that money is a tool, not a toy. They approach decisions with a clear mind and a structured plan, not with impulses or fleeting feelings. This shift requires honesty with yourself, patience, and a commitment to long-term growth rather than immediate gratification. Practically, it starts with a simple habit: waiting. Before making any major financial decision, whether it's a purchase, an investment, or a new venture, pause for 24 hours. Let the excitement fade, the fear settle, and the clarity of rational thought emerge. During that time, write down the reasons for the decision, the potential risks, and the expected returns. By introducing this pause, you allow logic to guide your choices rather than fleeting emotion. Over time, this habit rewires your mind, creating a consistent pattern of smart, disciplined financial behavior. Strategically, detaching emotion means creating frameworks and systems that guide every financial action: budgets, written financial goals, investment criteria. These tools become your guideposts, removing the guesswork and temptation. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like buying this?" you ask, "Does this align with my plan, my goals, and my future?" You shift from reactive to proactive, from impulsive to intentional. This not only protects your wealth, but also allows it to grow steadily, compounding over time. I've watched too many people sabotage their financial future by letting emotions dictate spending. The wealthy are not immune to desire or fear. They simply know how to pause, reflect, and act in alignment with their long-term vision. By detaching emotion from spending, you gain control over your money, your decisions, and ultimately your freedom. Discipline in thought creates freedom in life. Pause, reflect, decide, and let logic multiply your wealth. I've often said that the journey to wealth isn't glamorous. In fact, most people assume that building wealth requires extraordinary intelligence, luck, or some big break. I've been there, starting with almost nothing at 25, realizing quickly that the secret to financial freedom isn't found in excitement. It's found in the boring, consistent habits that most people ignore. Excitement spends money, discipline multiplies it. That simple truth separates the wealthy from the rest. Philosophically, wealth is not about the occasional windfall or the flash of brilliance. It is cultivated quietly, day by day, in small actions, repeated faithfully. Every financial habit, every decision to save instead of spend, to invest instead of splurge, compounds over time. Life rewards those who show up consistently, even when it feels mundane. The excitement fades, but the results grow silently in the background, waiting for years to show their full power. The person who invests a little each month, tracks every expense, and reviews progress regularly may seem ordinary to the outside world, but over a decade or more, they become extraordinary. Practically, this means building a simple yet disciplined routine. Budget your income, invest a fixed percentage consistently, and review your portfolio and expenses regularly. It may sound dull, but these repetitive, ordinary actions are what create wealth. Treat your money management like exercise, something you do consistently, even when you don't feel motivated. This isn't about chasing the thrill of a quick profit or the adrenaline of a market gamble. It's about showing up, understanding your goals, and acting in alignment with them every single. Strategically, ordinary habits become extraordinary results because they compound. Think of it like planting seeds in a garden. You don't see immediate results when you water, fertilize, and tend the soil every day. But if you persist, the garden eventually flourishes beyond what you imagined. Wealth works the same way. The daily practice of disciplined saving, smart spending, investing in assets, and reviewing your progress eventually compounds into a financial harvest that exceeds the wildest dreams of those who seek shortcuts or instant gratification. I've seen countless people get distracted by the shiny and exciting, missing the quiet power of consistent habits. The truth is, extraordinary wealth is often boring. But it is in that boring consistency that freedom, security, and prosperity are built. Over time, the ordinary choices you make every day create results so profound that they seem magical to those who didn't understand the power of repetition. Discipline in small, ordinary actions is the engine of extraordinary wealth. Show up daily, repeat faithfully, and the results will follow. When I first started out, I thought wealth was simply having more money in the bank. I quickly realized that money, while important, is only a tool. True wealth is measured not by what you accumulate in your lifetime, but by what continues to serve beyond your years. That's the essence of legacy. Prosperity is temporary if it exists only for today. But when we turn it into a legacy, it becomes eternal. The rich don't just live for themselves. They build systems, habits, and structures that benefit generations. True wealth is not counted in dollars alone, but in what outlives you and shapes the lives of those who come after. Philosophically, legacy is the bridge between personal success and timeless impact. You can amass all the money in the world, but without a plan to pass on knowledge, principles, and habits, your prosperity may end with you. Wealth becomes meaningful when it's tied to purpose and values, guiding the next generation to think bigger, act wisely, and manage resources responsibly. This is where the difference between the wealthy and the merely rich becomes clear. The wealthy think beyond themselves. They plant seeds that grow long after they're gone. Practically, creating a legacy starts with documentation and intentionality. Write down your values, the principles that guided your financial decisions, and the systems that allowed you to succeed. Teach your family about money management, investing, and the habits that built your wealth. Share your failures as openly as your successes, because wisdom is learned as much from mistakes as triumphs. A diary, a family meeting, or even a written guide can become a roadmap for those who follow. The discipline of recording and teaching ensures that your prosperity does not vanish but multiplies across generations. Strategically, legacy building means thinking generationally about your assets, income streams, and influence. Set up trusts, estate plans, or family investments that endure. Establish businesses, intellectual property, or systems that operate beyond your daily involvement. Beyond money, cultivate character, integrity, and habits in those around you. These are the intangible assets that compound over decades. Teaching the next generation to think independently, invest wisely, and value discipline ensures that your legacy will flourish. I've learned that wealth without legacy is fleeting, but when we combine discipline, foresight, and a commitment to the future, prosperity becomes a gift that keeps giving. Your life's work doesn't end with you. It continues in the actions, choices, and wisdom of those you influence. Turn prosperity into legacy, and you will achieve a wealth that transcends time. The wealth you build today can become the freedom, guidance, and foundation for generations. Make it count.